Greetings, health, and happiness to you. I'm Skol, and today we're going to do a tabletop review of the Tenable Fenrir. We're going to talk about three things. We're going to do a tabletop of the Fenrir, and as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 Fenrirs. We'll do a tabletop. We'll also talk about an issue that's being talked about. Is there a problem with the top liner lock version of the Fenrir? Is there a problem with the lockup? We will discuss that, and if that has been resolved, still a problem or no. We also talk about Norse mythology a little bit, since this is named after Fenrir, the giant, ferocious wolf god Fenrir. So first, let's talk about that. The Norse mythology. I've got a picture of Odin here. Odin always has 2 ravens, and he always has 2 wolf companions. That's Giri and Freki. And Odin has 1 eye. It's kind of covered by his hair there. But you know Odin from Marvel, at least. But Odin overlooks every battlefield, and Freki and Giri, they run out ahead of him, so the wolves are known as the harbingers of battle. Odin is also known for his horse named Sleipnir that has 8 legs. So that's Odin and his 2 wolves. There's also a brand name called Odin Wolf. Here's 2 more wolves in Norse mythology. So here's Skol, the white wolf that chases the sun, and here's Hati, the black wolf that chases the moon. So pronounced in Norse, it's Skol and Hati, but in English we say Skol and Hati. And then another way to depict Skol and Hati, this kind of reminds you of the Asian yin and yang. So if you focus here on the white area, you'll see a white wolf. And there's the eye, and there's the mouth trying to bite the sun. So the white wolf Skol chases the sun, and then flip it upside down and focus on the black area. You'll see here's the eye and the mouth chasing the moon. So there's the white wolf Skol and the black wolf Hati, and the world is in balance as they continue to chase the sun and the moon, just like the yin and yang in Asia represents maintaining balance. So one thing about the Norse mythology, eventually Skol is going to catch the sun, and that will signal the beginning of Ragnarok, the end of the world, and chaos will be unleashed when Skol finally catches the sun. I have my own wolf, so you can see here. We were just talking about Skol and Hati, who are actually 2 sons of Fenrir. And then I go by Skol, so I'm Skol, and there's the sun, so I thought this was a neat picture to go. And then talk about my husky dog, who is 52% DNA wolf. All huskies are approximately 52% DNA. That's just the mix that they came up with to create huskies. But you know that huskies are very friendly, so they're not dangerous like wolves. The only difference between a husky and a wolf visually is real wolves have yellow eyes, and real wolves are 3 times bigger than a husky. So a full-size husky is 65 pounds, and a full-size wolf is about 200 pounds. So here is this is actually 3D printed. My boy gave me this Skol as a unexpected present, and then also gave me this husky statue, which is also in green, but I thought it would be better if it was painted. So I had my daughter paint it so we could put it on the mantle, and it's painted to look just like our husky dog Saber. And you can see she did a good job. And then when I flipped it over, I was expecting to see green on the bottom, but nope, she went the extra mile, and she even painted the paws, and she did it right with the 4 toes. When you see a husky dog print or a wolf dog print, it has 4 toes. So there we go. that is a statue of Saber that sits on our mantle, painted by Rachel and printed by my boy. So here we've got, I'll just show you some of this other eye candy. I've got a wolf band that I'm wearing, so that's probably supposed to be Fenrir, but I just say it's a wolf, or it's Saber, or it's the Skol, the wolf. And then I always wear this Viking armband, but these are dragon heads on this. But my boy has a armband too, but his has wolf heads. And then I've got a ring. Here's the ring, this cool ring. I got this at a Renaissance Festival, Ohio Renaissance Festival, and that looks pretty cool. I don't really ever wear rings because I wear gloves all the time, and I found out that even tight-fitting rings don't work so good in my gloves, so I usually don't ever have rings on. But this is a pretty cool wolf ring. Since we're talking about wolves, and then here's Mjolnir, 2 wolf heads holding the ring there, and then I got another cool amulet here with a wolf on it, and I always just say that that's Skol, since I go by Skol, so that's Skol the wolf. And then here you might recognize this from Netflix, The Witcher. That's the medallion that he wears in The Witcher. And then that one came in a 2-pack, like a Witcher 2-pack, so I guess this is also The Witcher. Let me grab a flashlight. Maybe in the comics this is the medallion, and in the Netflix show it's the other one. But this kind of looks like Fenrir, actually, because look how the eyes glow. Fenrir's big, ferocious black wolf, and his eyes glow from internal fire. So that kind of looks like Fenrir. And with the gaping mouth and teeth and the glowing eyes, that's pretty cool. And then over here, we've got a sharpening stone. Some company came up with the idea to turn it into a necklace, so I wear that sometimes. It's actually a good sharpening stone. But the Vikings, one of the most common things found in their graves was a sharpening stone, along with combs and tweezers. The Vikings were known for being well-groomed, and actually one of the days of the week, Saturday for them, was actually named Bath Day or Wash Day. So I guess they would take a bath every Saturday, or that was part of their culture. And for back then, 1,000 years ago, perhaps that's actually above average. So we've talked about that. So let's jump into the tabletop review now. I did want to talk about famous Norse gods, Odin, and maybe the 5 most famous: Thor, Loki, Freya, and Tyr, the one-handed god. And then Fenrir is the son of Loki, and then Skol and Hati that we talked about are the sons of Fenrir. So there's like 3 generations there. And the days of the week are actually named after those Norse gods. So you have Sunday and Monday is named after the sun and the moon. But then Tuesday is named after Tyr, the one-handed god, and it was actually Fenrir who bit off his hand. And then Wednesday is Odin's Day, but it starts with a W because in English there's a lot of words that begin with W, but in Norse they drop the W, such as wolf. In English, wolf begins with a W, but in Norse it's Ulf, U-L-F, and there's no W. So there's many words that are like that, including Odin. So in English they call him Woden, or Vodin, begins with a W, W-O-D-I-N. And then in Norse, it's just Odin with a O, and there's no W. So, but Wednesday, since that's the English, it's like Vodin's Day. And then Thursday is obviously Thor's Day, and Friday is Freya's Day. And then, like I said, they had a wash day, which was Lordsdag in Sweden and Norway, which means wash day. But in English, they had been taking the Roman, because England had been occupied by Rome for a long time. They took the Roman gods and kind of matched them up with the Norse gods. And Saturday was named after Saturn, the Norse god Saturn. and in Greek it's Kronos. But anyway, there was no Norse god that matched up with Saturn, and in England they ended up just keeping Saturn for some reason. But the reason I'm going through all of that is Saturn has 100 or like 200 moons. That's not the right number, but approximately 200 moons, and one of the Saturn moons is named Fenrir. There's like a group of the 200 moons called the Norse group, and one of them is named Fenrir. So maybe we could say Saturday is Fenrir Day. So now let's jump into the tabletop. So here we've got, can you see the difference? Can you tell by looking what the handles are made out of? A lot of people can probably tell. So this one's micarta, and if you look close, you can see the normal micarta texture. You can feel just a little bit. It feels pretty smooth, but you can still feel that texture just a little bit. So this one, the purple one, is micarta, and there's the Spidey flick. We'll get a weight on that. And here we're getting 3.8 ounces. Can you see those numbers? I'll lay that to the side. And then can you guess what this is? It's actually G10 with a print pattern on it. So let's get a close-up. This one you can feel the pattern. You can see how there's a little bit of a texture, and you can actually feel it a lot easier on the G10 one. But that's a print pattern. There's like 4 different colors and like a camo pattern. Let's call that loud camo. Although I forget what they actually called it. But it's a G10 print. I think that's how NAFS does their Space Kitties. I think it's on a G10 with a print. So that's just G10. Then when you look at this one, a lot of people might guess carbon fiber, which is what I guessed when I first looked at it. But this is actually something kind of new called G mascus, because it looks kind of like Damascus, but it's actually G10. But they're calling it G mascus. So it's a type of G10, something new. That looks pretty cool. And maybe this is the closest to Fenrir's actual colors with the black and the red eyes. So black and red are probably Fenrir's colors. And so we had micarta, G10, G mascus, G10. And this one is bronze anodized aluminum. But I call it gold. I just like to call it gold. So gold color. And this one's got milled fish scale pattern. So you can feel that. There's a little bit of grip. These knives are all the same. They're all top liner locks with a compression button. And you notice they've changed the shape on the buttons. The newer thing is to do this tic-tac, like the tic-tac candies. I'm not sure if people are calling them tic-tacs, but that looks like the shape and size of a tic-tac to me. So I'm not sure what people are saying that shape is. Although I think I heard someone say pill shape, but aren't pills often round? So why not go with Tic Tac? It's the same. That's the Tic Tac shape and size. Maybe I'll get something going. Tic Tac button. Now let's do the tabletop, then we'll talk about if there's still a problem that other people have said. So real quick, the dimensions are all the same except for the handle materials we talked about. We got 3.8 on the scale for micarta. That's the lightest. Here we got 4.05 ounces for the G10 print. And the G mascus is actually a little bit heavier, just a tad. So we're getting 4.11. And the aluminum, we're getting 4.3. So those were in order from lightest to heaviest. So 4.3 on the aluminum and 3.8 on the micarta. So if those couple 0.5, actually half an ounce there difference, you can go with micarta, which is a good EDC weight. But to me, 4.3 is still in the ballpark of a good EDC weight. I like aluminum handles myself, and I've been waiting for this one to arrive. These have been selling like hotcakes. So the Fenrir's been around for over a year in other lock styles. They've got liner locks, crossbar locks, the old button locks, and now this is the top liner lock with the compression tic-tac button. And then once they, and there's also Concept Fenrirs as well. So Concept and Tenable are the same company. The premium knives are under Concept, and the budget ones are under Tenable. And once they came out with this new top liner lock, all of a sudden, these were selling well before, but then they kind of kicked into hyper overdrive. So one of the first companies to bring us, there's a lot of demand for this new top liner lock demand. And then that brings us to the issue, did they make a mistake here at the beginning? And we will talk about that in a minute after we finish the review. So let's just finish looking. We got 2 standoffs. We got a reversible pocket clip. And you can see the screws are flush in there. And then there's your holes if you want to flip it to the other side. And then you can get your, I wear large size gloves. You got a finger groove here. And I can get my entire full 4 fingers comfortably on there. But you can also choke up. So you have options. And then you've got a thumb ramp where your thumb fits nicely there. There's a little bit of jimping right there. I watched another review and they said they wish there was more jimping up the ramp. And I think I agree with that. But it's a comfortable choil and it's comfortable the way it is to choke up like that. That's really nice. You can see this is an interesting design because you have a straight drop point, but they're calling this a harpoon. But this ramp actually extends above the spine line, so it creates a barb or a flue, F-L-U-E, on a harpoon when you've got a barb, or it can be called a flue. And then in concert with the choil here, it almost looks symmetrical to have a double 2-flued harpoon. So let's check the stock thickness real quick. I have a caliper right here. Let's turn it on. And it's reading 0. And I already checked it before, 0.14. So let's check it again. Still reading. Can you see that? 0.141. So that's pretty thick for a starting stock thickness. And then, but since there's such a long flat grind down to a point, it's good that you're starting a little bit thicker. So we got blackwash. These are all Nitro-V blades. Like I said, Concept has a more premium version of these. So if you want S35V and some other options and Damascus options, they've got that. I think, like we mentioned, the horse Sleipnir, and there's a steel called Sleipnir named after Odin's horse. I think it would be fun to go with the Norse theme if these were in Sleipnir. Sleipnir is still somewhat of a budget steel, and it's similar to D2, but it's better than D2, so call it a D2 plus. If these were in Sleipnir, I would like that. Let's see what else we got. So let's look at the details here on the blade. So you can see it says Nitro-V, Tenable. It's got a model number. I could do without the model number on there, but here's the designer, Greg Schob, and he is in the American Coast Guard operating in the Gulf of America. And also that symbol there, he owns his own company called Sparrow Knife Company, and this is actually the skull of a sparrow. So that's the symbol for his Sparrow Knife Company logo. And then here it says Fenrir, Fenrir. We got a blackwash blade. All these knives here are the same. So as you can maybe tell, since I got 4, that I like this knife. Did I say they were selling like hotcakes? So basically these were sold out and I was waiting. I wanted the gold one especially. Then finally I decided I'll do the pre-order and wait, and I waited. But I actually only had to wait about 2 weeks, and then they got more in, my order shipped and arrived. But I did notice that after they got them back in stock, they were sold out again 1 day later. So these are absolutely selling like fire, and Tenable factory must be running balls out to try to meet the demand, because these are absolutely selling like hotcakes. So let's talk about that other issue. What's the issue? So you can go to Metal Complex channel. He had some Fenrir sent to him, and I guess he was tipped off by somebody else, said that there was a problem, so he tried it out himself. And basically, he took the top liner lock Fenrirs he had, and he whacked them against the table 7 times. Whack, 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 whack. And on the 7th time, the lock came loose. And then he did it on 2 of the other ones. It didn't come loose, but then he tried the last one, and whack, 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 whack. It was about 7, and then that one also came loose. So he was saying he was only hitting it about medium hard, and it was on a padded table and a plastic table underneath. So he was saying it was just somewhat medium hit, and he was saying it should hold. But I would offer some critique on his test method. So with Boy Scout safety rules, blood circle, you don't have people in your area when you're working with the open knife, and you're aware of what you have here. Now I've got a tripod, so I don't want to be swinging this around because I know I have the tripod right here, but generally when you work with a knife, it's best not to have obstacles, and you just focus on your task. So you do want something careless could happen, but it would be your fault to be negligent or careless to whack the spine pretty hard. But you would expect your lock to hold and not fail from a medium or even a hard whack. So I agree with that. Locks should be able to handle that. But is it reasonable, and is there ever a real life case to ever expect a knife to withstand a whack, 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 whack 7 times? So let me show you something. Let me show you what's happening. I put some thought into this. And once I get through talking here, I think Metal Complex is a reasonable person. I think he actually might agree with what I say here. So one thing I want to show you is look real close at the button. What am I looking at? This side. Can you see it? So that's a pretty long button. It's fixed to the leaf spring, and it protrudes a little bit. Maybe you can see it better if it's open. So there. See how long that is? So I thought of using a coffee cup as an example. So here, and I happen to have a Fenrir one, so it was perfect. So I got this handle sticking out here. So if I drop this, like the whack test, and then you've got a protruding button out the side, all the momentum of this is unsupported. All the momentum is going to go into the handle. So when I drop it, there's always going to be a torsional twist with every one of those wraps. So that's going to cause it to slowly walk out, maybe a micromillimeter, but that's what's happening there. Every time you wrap it, you're getting a little bit of a torsional twist with every hard wrap. So you see what I'm saying there. It's unsupported. So when you hit there, all of the momentum's being transferred into the leaf spring and giving it a little twist like that. So is it reasonable to go whap, whap, whap? And here's my proposal for a better test. Give it a nice hard 1 wrap, then reset the lock. So wrap, and then reset the lock. You can give it another hard wrap. Do that 10 times. I think that would be more realistic. I think you should expect the lock to work on 1 hard wrap. That's what it's there for. The lock has 2 purposes. One is a good strong lock to keep it open. The lock helps keep it open. So if the lock's broken, it's just going to flop. And the other thing is the safety of your hands to not swing closed on your fingers. So standing up to 1 hard whack, if you were negligent and you whack something, fine. You do want your lock to save you from that careless whacking. But is it reasonable to whack 7, 10 times over and over? That's not a real life scenario. So why don't you just reset the lock after each whack? And will it hold all 10 times? I think it would. But Metal Complex did have good advice to Tenable. He said, check the geometry. Is your geometry off? Is that what was happening? But I think I figured out what was happening was the torsional twist and walking it out. And he also recommended increasing the tension of the leaf spring. And I agree with Metal Complex on that. And I think that would also stop it from walking out. So, I mean, I would agree with increasing the tension so that it doesn't walk out. Now, none of mine have walked out with wrapping it. And I wonder, Metal Complex got his early, and then they've been selling out. So I wonder if Tenable has been making an adjustment, and the newer ones coming out have had a minor adjustment. So I don't know. These feel like they have pretty good tension. I also have a Kaiser top liner lock, and to me, it feels like similar tension. So theirs is a round button, but this is a top liner lock. The amount of tension seems pretty similar. So the problem might be solved if Tenable, the ones that Metal Complex had, maybe they were a little bit lighter leaf tension. Maybe the new ones that I got, maybe, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know if they made that adjustment. But it seems to me that they don't seem to have a problem. I just wanted to say that. And also, I think it's a more fair test as well to do a hard wrap, reset the lock. You can test it 10 times that way. As long as it holds on that first wrap, that's a real, more closer to real life test. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. So we covered a lot of cool things. Maybe you learned a little bit about Norse mythology. There's actually a cool channel, YouTube channel, called Dr. Jackson Crawford. You can go find him on YouTube if you want to know anything about Viking mythology, the Viking language, some of that pronunciation that I got. Viking runes are pretty cool. Those tend to pique people's interest. Actually, here's the Norse alphabet where the runes come from on the back of this amulet. So that's called the Futhark Viking alphabet. And then there's, on the back of this amulet, there's kind of a cool phrase that it says there. It says something like, live forever in Valhalla where you eternally live. But you can keep reading that same sentence in a circle, so without a period. It kind of goes around and around if you read it that way. And then this middle thing, some people call that the Viking compass, but the Viking compass doesn't look, it looks similar to that, but that's not exactly it. But aesthetically, most people wouldn't tell what that is. But this is the backside anyway. The only thing people would see is that. Isn't that pretty cool? So I got some cool Viking stuff here. We talked about mythology, Fenrir. We talked about the tabletop review, and we talked about the issue with the top liner lock. There's a lot of demand for a top liner lock. Theoretically, it should be one of the toughest types of locks. So the heel of a blade should have a right angle, and there should be a nice flush leaf spring. It should be even tougher than a normal liner lock. The top liner lock should be better. So with the geometry, at least theoretically, so maybe there was a leaf spring tension issue. I don't know, but top liner locks definitely are one of the most powerful types of locks you can have. And as long as they get the geometry right and have good leaf spring tension on the spring, then it should be good to go. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the tabletop review. And as you can tell, I have a high recommendation of the Fenrir that I demonstrate all the action. So here's the thumb stud and the Spidey flick, and you can also just press the button and swing it open. So there's multiple ways to deploy. I think we covered the full tabletop. Really great knife that everybody loves. It's selling out. Go ahead and do a pre-order. Might as well, because it's hard to catch them in stock. And these are flying off the shelves, and these are so much fun. Especially to me. Love the Fenrir. Highly recommended. I like that a Coast Guard guy, American Coast Guard guy, designed it too. Love that. Okay. I'm Skol, and remember, always carry a knife.